All right, you need to listen to this 3 minutes of guitar. And then we're going to get into a bonus special podcast with Stephane Wrembel, who will be coming to the Ram's Head on stage May 26th.
This is an Ion Annapolis bonus podcast.
Hey, those that know me know that I appreciate great music and always love discovering new music. And those that know me also know that I don't know a lot about music or art for that, but I do know when I like it. Today I'm talking to an artist who has been around for a long time and somehow slipped under my radar. And so now I have discovered and become a fan of Stephane Wrembel, who is a magician with the guitar, who will be at Ram's Head on stage for a single show May 26th. And any of you Naval Academy families listening, you want to listen up because this is a perfect night out before graduation and commissioning. Stephane, welcome. And I am your newest super fan.
Hello, thank you.
I am. It was funny. I put Spotify on this morning and it didn't go off. I was like, okay, one after another after another. It was great. I love your music.
Thank you.
I do. Well, I'll tell you, the New York Times did say, said, quote, perhaps the most creative improviser in gypsy jazz today, Mr. Wrembel plays the guitar with rich and colorful lyricism. And that's not too shabby coming from the New York Times, that's for sure. But, you know, I tell you, I'm not familiar with the gypsy jazz. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, first, there's not really such thing as gypsy jazz. I don't endorse that word at all. I think there is Django Reinhardt and there is jazz. And I wouldn't be able to tell you what makes gypsy jazz. I really don't know. I don't know why. I think it's everything that comes from Django. I don't know.
Okay.
But anyway, I usually prefer to go by the Django style guitar playing. Django revolutionized the guitar playing with his right hand technique, his sense of harmony. Basically, he showed us how guitar is played, not only in jazz, because when I refer to jazz, I refer to New Orleans. I refer to the original archetypal thing that was born in the late 19th century in New Orleans. That's really what I refer to when I say jazz. To me, Miles Davis is not jazz. John Coltrane is not jazz. Charlie Parker is not jazz. Charlie Parker is Charlie Parker. Miles Davis is Miles Davis. John Coltrane is John Coltrane. They already put a lot of themselves in their music, which comes from jazz, but is not jazz. It comes from, yes. So I always refer to the Mother Lode, which was played mainly on the horns, the horn section,
right,
brass, and percussion, and also piano, with the stride and all. It probably comes from that even. But the horns, the way they were playing and all, Django and his band, they emulated that with the guitars, with the strings, actually. It was a string quintet, 3 guitars, upright bass, and violin, which has a very different groove than the sousaphone, for example, to use an upright bass. And the guitars on rhythm, it sounds different than the piano and the banjo and the whole thing. So there is no horns, no brass in Django's band. So it's all string quintets. And he showed how to play jazz on strings. And he showed us all the path to jazz on the guitar. And then there was also a lot of Django after that. The
right.
early Django is a lot of that original path on the guitar that he showed us. And then it became more and more like himself. So it's a funny thing. He did what, maybe Louis Armstrong did one thing and Miles Davis did another. He did both things in a very short period of time. Showed us the articulation of it and the archetype of it on the guitar, and then managed to move on and put a lot of himself in it. So that's how I think about Django and about jazz.
Well, I will say that listening to you, I found that I was compulsively tapping my toes and snapping my fingers, and it really did remind me, and I haven't been there in a long time, but back to your roots. I mean, it reminded me of a small jazz club in Paris, any small jazz club in Paris. And I mean, based on your accent, I mean, that is where you're from, right? Paris or France?
France, Fontainebleau.
Okay. How long have you been you're in New York now, and how long have you been in New York?
Actually, I'm in Maplewood, New Jersey, which is right across New York. But I've been in the U.S. since 2000, so 22 years. I was first in Boston for 3 years, then New York City, then New Jersey.
Well, there you are. Well, I'll tell you, have got quite an incredible career. I mean, you've got 16 albums, and they're mostly under the under your name, as well as Stephane Wrembel, as well as Django Unchained, right?
No, that's a movie.
Oh.
The Django Experiments.
That's right.
So that's a little series of 6 albums I did last few years to celebrate the music of Django. But I've been for the past few years, and unfortunately I got blocked a little bit by the COVID. But I developed my festival, Django A Go-Go. So every year I bring some great European masters to the area of New York City with a guitar camp, and we have a concert series. So the first year, it's going to be 20 years. But the first year, formula with the camp and a big venue, which was Carnegie Hall the first year, started in 2017. And so for a few years, I really worked on that and worked on the music of Django. But now I'm going back to my own music. I will play less and less Django. But my festival is still going once a year. That's what I wanted, to bring that back, and then leave the covering Django's music a little bit.
Right.
And of my music.
Right. Well, you also participated with the score of 2 movies with actually both Woody Allen movies. You've got Vickie, Christina, Barcelona, as well as Midnight in Paris. And how did that end up coming up? How did you end up connecting with Woody Allen's people to work on those?
They asked me if I could compose At first, they asked me if they could use my song Big Brother for the movie Vickie, Christina, Barcelona. Then they asked me if I could compose the theme for Midnight in Paris. Then I was invited on a scene in Magic in the Moonlight, but the scene was deleted. And then I was the hired composer for the whole soundtrack of Rifkin Festival.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Well, when you come to Annapolis on May 26th to the Ram's Head on Stage, you're bringing a full quartet with you?
Trio.
Awesome. Well, tickets are still available. I know you can get them at ramsheadonstage.com, and I do suggest that you go and do that there. Question for you. You've played obviously all over Europe and obviously in France, but do you see any difference between the audiences between the U.S. and Europe? And do you have a preference, I guess?
No, people are different everywhere, a little bit in their reaction, but the American crowd is a bit more cheerful and interactive, more like jazz, rock in education. And the French crowd is more educated in classical, so they have more of a tendency to sit down quietly and clap and be a little bit more like serious about it. But I don't think it really changed the interaction between us and the people. In the end, it's not really what matters. We have to go beyond that. I think like we're all the same. We're human beings. So we're all different and all the same. We all dream. We all have poetry in us. We all have that something. So
well, and
that's what we connect to, you know.
And music is the great equalizer too. I mean, it's a common language. No matter where you go.
I don't know what that is.
In the world.
I don't know what music is, honestly. I know that I'm doing it. I don't know why we have music. I don't know why we do it, why we need it. I just know it's there and it's part of the human experience. So it's a very deep part. I don't know what it is.
That's true. Well,
I recognize it when it's there.
Yeah, it's sort of like music and art for me. I recognize it when I like it, and I know when I don't like it. But it's kind of funny, and I would think that the difference in crowd sizes probably makes a big difference to you. I know, with a large crowd you can probably motivate it, and that probably seems amazing in some senses. But in a smaller cabaret type of a situation, you almost can have a relationship with the people that are there listening to you. I mean, which is equally as amazing.
Yeah, I don't really feel any difference. I think the main difference is in the sound. When we play a big hall like Carnegie Hall or the Town Hall, we're going to play Lincoln Center in November, like 2 nights at the Rose Music Hall as well. We're headlining 2 nights there. So these are big halls,
Right.
And the sound carries a certain way. And we don't play the same when the sound carries that way than when we're in a smaller environment where the sound bounces right away. So this is really the main difference. It's in the sound. Otherwise, the connection is the same. Like we connect to people the same way. I don't really see any major difference in both. Of course, we're not a rock band. We don't play stadiums, so maybe there is something different there, but for us, like playing Carnegie Hall or playing a smaller venue, it's really like the sound that changes.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. And I'll tell you, as I was listening to your music this morning and the days before leading up to our conversation, I mean, it runs really from the sultry, very romantic, to, almost, almost swing jazz. And I mean, you really have a whole variety of music that's really mixed up in between there. I mean, do you enjoy the slower stuff or the faster stuff? Do you have a preference or is there a song that you really like playing?
I don't think in those terms. Especially when I play my music, each song has a story. So there is a theme behind, And so depending on the theme, we play different kind of songs. So I usually tell the story. I tell like what's behind that song so everyone can get in their own imagination. Then we play the song and we are all in our imagination. Me, because as playing the song, I think of the theme and I try to score it in my head. It's like I have images. It's like a very dreamy feeling. And I think it's the same way for the audience. We get into a dream together. But everyone is going to have his own dreams. See, when I have a song, for example, called Voyager for Carl Sagan, it's a song about space travel. Not like Star Trek, but more like I imagine that the Voyager, the Voyager spacecraft,
Right.
that took all the pictures traveling through space right now. And imagine that travel through space in mind like that, and what is out there, So it's a journey into space. If anything, a bit like 2001 Space Odyssey, Like,
Sure.
these are images like that I had in mind. So when I play it, that's what I have in mind, that feeling, And I think that people have that feeling too. But everyone is going to go on a different journey because we don't even perceive the world the same. We are all different. We get exposed to the same thing, but we don't experience it the same.
I love that concept of sharing different dreams with the same experience. I love that. I cannot wait to see you live. I honestly can't. I mean, Spotify, I think, probably does not do you justice by any means. Tell you what, if you're walking down the street here in Annapolis and you run across some stranger and you want them to come to your show, what song do you tell them to listen to that's going to make them say, "Hey, I've got to get to Ram's Head on stage and hear Stephane"?
They can listen to Voyager, for example, or Bistro Fada. It's the song I wrote for the Woody Allen movie. It's a good waltz.
Okay, fantastic. Well,
Voyager is a good one.
Well, I'll tell you, I will be at the show at Ram's Head on stage on the 26th of May. The doors do open at 7 p.m. The show is at 8 p.m. and you can get tickets at ramsheadonstage.com. And I do recommend everybody do this. Stephane Wrembel, who is just exquisite on the guitar, is going to be here for one show, and it's going to be one that you don't want to miss here in Annapolis. This is a special show, and I encourage everybody to get to it. And I appreciate your time this afternoon. And my daughter lives up in Manhattan. I'm going to tell her to make sure to get over to see your sort of residency over in Brooklyn that you do on Sunday nights. Appreciate your time today, and I wish you safe travels down here. And I can't wait to see your show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you interviewing me. Thank you.
All righty. Take care. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been a bonus podcast from Ion Annapolis. Please visit us at ionannapolis.net. Follow us on Facebook at All Annapolis and on Twitter at Ion Annapolis. And if you haven't subscribed to the Daily News Brief podcast, go for it. And all of your local news will be delivered to your phone, tablet, or smart device by 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday.